Travis Kelce should retire. Adam, you go first.
I'm going to say foul. The Chiefs offense has been on a downward turn the last couple seasons, man. I mean, we've seen what Matt Nagy's been as the OC. Of course, they were able to win the Super Bowl last year, but we talked about how weak the Chiefs were last year, how weak they were this year, and they just so happened to be able to not pull it out. You know, we can't forget the postseason records that Travis Kelce has had, man, along with 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons by him, which is an NFL record for tight ends. So I'm going to say foul. I can understand why you might go fair, but this whole Kelce is washed talk, I'm not there yet. He maybe has a third season where it's not looking as good. And again, if Nagy's still in the building, still going to be kind of hard to convince me. So I'm sticking foul.
Yeah, I'm going fair here. And this is less about me believing that he's able. I think if he really wanted to, he absolutely could suit up and play another season of football. But I think, to be honest, looking at the version of Travis Kelce we saw, he may be ready to pursue that post-career kind of lifestyle and do all those things. The one that's really sticks in my brain is that clip that I know made its way around Twitter of him basically not doing any of the ad-lib plays, just watching Patrick Mahomes run for his life. And that was one that kind of clicked for me, that I get you guys are getting blown out in the Super Bowl, but it's still the Super Bowl, man. And that's what you do best. It's when you and Mahomes get in the open space and ad-lib. And if that's not happening, I do wonder if the love for football has diminished a little bit. So he's had one of the best careers really in all of football. There's certainly no shame if he wants to walk away. I think it's fair if it is the time.
That's a fair point in knowing that football might not be fun for him. I want to see him do one last ride, though. I do. I mean, maybe come out and say this is going to be your last season, but I do think he should stick with it one more. I mean, we already know he's going into the Hall of Fame. I would like him to pad his stats even more and honestly see him rise to the top of the top. But overall, I think he should stay. Give me one more year.
I'm gonna say fair only because. And everything you're saying, I agree with what you're saying in terms of him staying. But I have been told a long time ago, if you talk or think about retiring, you're pretty much retired.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to convince us at the moment you're emotionally highest and you're talking about not playing anymore. You're not going to convince me that you found the love of the game again. Right. With another off season, you have a bunch of things happening. Your podcast. Dayton, obviously Taylor Swift, like life is different for you. And it's going to be, and listen, he could prove me wrong. He's great. He's an all-time great. And I'm sure he can lock in. He's a professional, but I truly believe if you think about retiring, you're half retired. You're retired. So
the foot's out the door.
And then what's going to happen if you have another season like this? We talked about this with Tiger Woods. You keep going out there and golfing, man. You have just as much bad golf on tape as you do good golf. And people are going to remember the lasting moments of you. And I don't want the lasting moments of Travis Kelce to be just some distracted, broken man following Taylor Swift around. So, Adam, Dak Prescott made news, getting the offseason started early, said, hey, he's coming back, and that the Dallas Cowboys are close to the Eagles. Fair or foul?
That's more foul than folks thinking Jalen Hurts is not elite. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, that's straight up foul there. That I can't even have these conversations for any of the throw Dak Prescott in these conversations we're having. Get out of there with that. And the Cowboys team is in an even worse spot than the Dak Prescott outlook as a whole. So sometimes better to just not step in front of a microphone if you're these guys. I don't even know why he gave the soundbite.
As long as Jerry is managing your team, you are not close to a Super Bowl. All right.
That's 100% why it's foul. I get it, man. You're the quarterback. You got to rile up the guys. You guys had a bad season. Dak Prescott put on his cowboy hat, took off his knee brace, and he's going to galvanize the troops and talk some shit to Philly. I'm with it. Nobody's with it more than me. But, Bert, they could go undefeated in the regular season. And when they get to the playoffs, they're going to cowboy it up because Jerry Jones is in charge. I don't trust the Cowboys at all. They're not close. I don't. Even if they are close, they're not. Adam, Patrick Mahomes is still clearly the best quarterback in football.
That's a damning word there that you have. Clearly?
That's why I added it. That's why it's fair or foul, bud. Got to pick one.
Clearly? No. No. I think that's foul. I think Lamar Jackson has a case after his last season. Of course, you have plenty of arguments for Mahomes. We clearly know what the man has done in his career, but clearly, no, I'm going to say that's foul. And he just lost in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, fair. I'll stick with it being fair here, that I think until somebody fully dethrones the king and Jalen Hurts gave his best attempt at it, that he still kind of holds the pedestal to this point. And by the way, we kind of brushed over it, Jerm. I do agree with your point that this was more concerning for the Patrick Mahomes legacy than it was positive for the Jalen Hurts. I am in full agreement on that take.
Sweet.
Wow.
I'm going to go fair. consistency is king, right? I mean, you've seen it since every season since he's been a starting quarterback. He has been, I think, first year was top 10 in almost everything, and since then top 5, everything from QBR, passer, and I mean touchdown, you name it. So, I mean, listen, he's going to remain that way. MVP votes aside, he's the best quarterback in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they said he's been in the league 7 years. This year is the first time he hasn't played in the playoffs. That wasn't like the AFC title game, or it was like some ridiculous, like he's never played
not made the AFC championship.
Right, never not made the AFC championship. Like again, credit to Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles for winning, but anybody can win one Super Bowl. I'm with Bert. It's consistency. He's just been consistently the best, winning
5 out of his 7 years he's played in the Super Bowl. Like that's insane.
Again, this is not against the Eagles. Like they won the Super Bowl, but you're talking about a guy who just did it one time just now versus a guy who's done it multiple times and has played in these high-level games his entire career. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Patrick Mahomes still clearly is the best quarterback in football.
How do you think Josh Allen's performed in his Super Bowl experience?
You know, Sean, right. I was just about to say, you like these little flicks,
kick him out.
these little darts.
So I knew this was going to happen because there's no argument, right? There's no argument for me, so I just have to take it. All I can do is just Saquon Barkley. Like that's all I got. I can only do. That's all. I mean,
Josh Allen has never lost the Super Bowl, so
there you go. Thank you for being my glass half full.
Yes.
I'm now going to go play Madden and play the Eagles and beat them 140-0 in rookie mode, just so I can erase the pain. Adam, fair or foul? Aaron Rodgers' time in New York has affected his legacy.
I'm going to say fair. He chose this team and anointed them on the Pat McAfee show. You know, my intention is to play for the New York Jets. And you pull Cobb, you pull Lazard, you pull Devontae Adams. And yeah, there was Garrett Wilson and you had Breece Hall and you had Sauce Gardner and this great defense. But it was still Robert Saleh as the coach, which you failed to recognize. It was still Woody Johnson in the front office, which you failed to recognize. So yes, this is on Aaron Rodgers. This is very fair that his time in New York 1,000% affected his legacy.
Yeah, I think it's fair as well. And I will say I started to stray to the foul side just from the standpoint of I feel like the cat's out of the bag on Aaron Rodgers, you know, who he is at this point, being a little out there, all the stuff that he's into. But I still think it's fair from the stance of you got to hold him accountable for what the results are. And they were below what I think even the floor for my expectations were for this Jets season. So will be very interesting how his story ends and what happens from here. But the bottom line is this was an absolute disaster with the New York Jets, and he's got to wear that on his sleeves moving forward.
I don't think it's affected his legacy from a football standpoint. I think we know who he is personality wise. We know he's, podcast goer, toad licker, cave dweller, but plays football on the weekends. Right. So I honestly think if we're going to separate the player from the personality, he is still top of the top. With that being said, he is following almost very clearly the same path as another former Packers quarterback. He is a dick pic and a charity stealing away from 1-to-1 of Brett Favre. So I'll leave it there. But I still, for me, it's one of those where I still think, did it ruin his legacy? Not really. Other quarterbacks have gone to the Jets and failed just as horribly.
Yeah. I was tempted to say fair, but I think that would make me a hypocrite because me and Bert said when he went to the Jets, even if he won a Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers would have looked like an underachiever. You know what I mean? Like I think we all can agree at the height of his powers that he, up until Patrick Mahomes, was the best player. I don't know what Adam Lewis is doing.
I want y'all to. I'm this okay. Get your take out, but okay. I'm drawing attention. It's gonna be a great one.
I think that he underachieved considering up until Patrick Mahomes, he was probably the best we've ever seen play the position of quarterback. He just, the winning didn't come with it. And even if he won a Super Bowl, people would have still said, well, man, he probably should have 5 or 6 based on his talent. So did it affect his legacy? Not really, because from a football standpoint, he actually played when he was out there pretty well for the Jets, but he allowed that team allowed him to sabotage and nuke everything they had going. And so, but that was already out on Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think another team is going to give him that opportunity. Like if he goes to the Steelers, Mike Tomlin ain't going to play that shit. Yeah. So I just highly doubt. All right, what is that? What does that mean?
That's how many games Aaron Rodgers won with the Jets this year. You know what that number is? That's how many games they won with Zach Wilson as their starter.
I feel you. Hey,
Case
I feel you.
Case closed. Wow.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not shitting on his quarterback play, but it tainted his legacy, and you can't deny it, man.
I got you. I think his perception has changed in the NFL. I think people always looked at him kind of like a weird guy, but I think
how he left Green Bay and that last season in particular, we all knew
made him like nuclear, right? Like,
and I mean, listen, how much shit, Jerm, did we talk when this trade went through? And we sat there and we looked right down the barrel of our camera and spoke into our microphone and said, Jet fans, don't celebrate now because your season's not going to change. Right. And it didn't.
It got worse, actually.
Adam
Lewis just let us know it actually got worse. I was not aware. That's
like Woody Johnson and Robert Saleh just didn't exist. I'm like, I see the roster, bro. I see it. But when I first started podcasting, I said, I think y'all were actually on the show with me. Or no, it was Brian Bolster. Coaching matters.
It does.
Coaching matters. And Saleh was never cut for that position. Defensive-minded head coaches, for the most part, they're out, bro.
Yeah, but I don't know. They had one
Ryans, they're out, bro. Unless your name is Dan Campbell, they're out, bro.
I don't think Robert Saleh had enough time. He had a lot of interference. He had the best defense, or one of the best defenses in the league. I think he just needed some. He needed some time. All right, Adam, fair or foul? Sam Darnold is the best free agent quarterback on the market.
This is a tough one, man, because we saw what Sam Darnold just did, you know. And I mean, when you look at the options, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, we're not going to talk about Daniel Jones, Cooper Rush, Mac Jones, right? I think
Cooper Rush winning record in Dallas.
I think all things considered, for what have you done for me lately, we could say fair. Now, obviously, the last two games that Sam Darnold played in a Vikings uniform, the season finale against the Lions and then the opener against the Rams, where they just got absolutely blown out in the wild card, that's going to taint this foul take, because I feel like if you hold up two quarterbacks in front of me and you're saying, would you like Russell Wilson or Sam Darnold to lead the New Orleans Saints next year? I'm going to take Russell Wilson. That's just me. So I'll say fair unconfidently, though.
Mm-hmm. I'll go fair from the stance that I do think he'll get the highest paid contract out of these quarterbacks. Foul from the stance of that he will actually be the best quarterback out of there. My preference will be Justin Fields in this case, from the standpoint of at least there could be something more there. I think the book's out on Sam Darnold, and who he is a quarterback that is better than what some options team has, but who he's not is a difference maker, a guy that is going to take you to the playoffs, to take you to these deep, runs or chances at a Super Bowl. He's not that. I think a team will give him a healthy contract to let him be their innings eater, that mediocre quarterback, but I don't have any optimism that Sam Darnold's more than that. So I'll go fair from the stance that I do think he gets paid like the best quarterback on the market.
Oh, I'll agree with that 100%. There's really not much more to add. I think given the other options, he's probably the top one to go with.
I'm going to go foul, because I think
Joe Flacco.
No, I think Kirk Cousins.
Elite.
I think Kirk Cousins came back way too early from his injury. I feel like he felt like he owed Atlanta, and I feel like it hindered him. And I think with a full off season, I've seen Kirk Cousins play at a high level, and his high level is better than what Sam Darnold has given us. So I will put an asterisk, and I will assume Kirk Cousins is healthy, even though I know that's a dangerous game. But if I am to believe that, and not that he's given me any reason not to believe it, but if I think Kirk Cousins is healthy, I think he would be the best free agent quarterback available. Obviously, depending on what team. If any of these quarterbacks go to like the worst team, then obviously it's not going to matter. But if they go to a good situation, like I don't know what is the best quarterback needy team, right? I guess if that makes sense. I guess it would be the Steelers. So like I put myself. I think Kirk Cousins would do better on the Steelers than Russell, than whoever. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, but again, now you have to take into account like who Aaron Rodgers is as a human, which is not great. So it's like I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins, but it's close. That's splitting hairs. News came out this week that the Jags were, well, I guess it's news, but they were like, hey, might trade Trevor Lawrence. Hey, could do this, could do that, and I thought it was interesting. Fair or foul, Adam? The Jags should trade Trevor Lawrence.
I'm going to say, from the question of the Jags should trade him, I'll go fair. I think he could be supported better. Clearly when you have him going number 1 overall to a franchise like Jacksonville, it's going to be a rough going. And, we've even seen Trevor Lawrence, I think over a 15, 18, 20 game stretch from about the middle of one season to the middle of another. He looked elite. He had the numbers to support it. He had the wins to support it. But outside of that, it looks very rough. And I think a lot of that has to do with the front office and how the franchise has failed to build around a generational prospect that we believe Trevor is. So I'll go fair.
Yeah, I also think it's fair here. And I think, to be honest, it'd be fair for both sides. For the Jaguars individually or as a franchise here, I don't think you're just a Band-Aid fix between being contenders. You have some real deal rebuilding to do. And if you have, I don't think it makes sense to, continue that process with Trevor Lawrence, who's only getting older. And for Trevor specifically, you got to want a better destination than it's currently the case. He's been set up for failure down there. There's no doubt about it. And with that being said, I also am not going to brush over that we've seen the Trevor Lawrence regression, man. His feet in the pocket last year, the antsy feet that he got, that is not good to see from a guy who is now 5 years into his NFL career. So I have my concerns about Trevor Lawrence, but I think a breakup might be the best for both sides here.
I agree 100%. I think a refresh is in order. And particularly I was thinking for this on behalf of on Trevor Lawrence, he needs a reset like Sam Darnold needed a reset, plain and simple.
Boom.
Yeah, I think it's fair. It goes back to my argument earlier about elite, and not to say Trevor Lawrence is elite, but when I look at franchise quarterbacks, even if the team's around you that's bad, I need to see something from you that elevates something.
Yeah.
I need to see something. I can handle losing records. I have to see it from the quarterback. We just saw it from Joe Burrow all year. And again, I'm not trying to make Trevor Lawrence into Joe Burrow, but in general, we watched Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff sent to Detroit to die. He elevated that team. To what level you want to put them at is up to you. But I'm saying in general, they're not the reason why their teams aren't successful in whatever version of success that is for them. Trevor Lawrence, man, it's not working. You drafted him to be something. There's also that return on investment. You drafted him number 1 overall to be a franchise guy. And it doesn't look any better than when Gardner Minshew was there. You might as well have not even moved on from him. So when your comp is Gardner Minshew, and I love me some Gardner Minshew. I think every team should have one. It's just, that's also not a franchise quarterback either. So I don't know, why would I get ready to pay you that? Or why would I build a team around you when I know you can't elevate nothing? I have to have the best receivers around you. I have to have the best this. I have to have the best that. Not every team outside the Eagles this year has the best of everything. It's just, that doesn't happen often, right? That's just luck, timing, and a great GM. The Jags don't have any of that. So
Nope.
It might be time to move on before it's too late.
This is what the generational Trevor Lawrence is doing. 63% completion in his career, 69 touchdowns, 46 interceptions with an 85 passer rating.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's very tough.
Last one, boys. Neither Philly or KC will return to the Super Bowl next year. Fair or foul?
I'm going to say foul. I still think the Eagles have the chance to do it, being the youngest defense to ever win the Super Bowl. I think Vic Fangio now has overtaken Steve Spagnuolo as the best defensive coordinator in the league. Of course, losing Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni having to now hit on a third, fourth offensive coordinator in his many years as a coach is going to be something that he's really need to be big on. But thankfully, he's still got Vic. He's still got Jalen. Saquon's going to be there. They're going to lock up guys like Zach Bond, A.J. Brown, Smitty, Dallas Goedert. They're not going anywhere. It might not be a beautiful ride because it was a little bit of a bumpy one at the beginning to middle of this year, but I think it's foul to say that neither of them will make it back. I would give more of a nod to Philly, possibly over KC. But if we see a rematch next year, if we see 3 of the same Super Bowl matchups in 4 years, I'm not shocked, guys.
Yeah, I think this is foul as well. I think there's a pretty likely chance that we see a best of 3 series in the Super Bowl. Let's get the rubber match going here. And to be honest, I think the Eagles are uniquely equipped to survive. Usually when you see a Super Bowl victory, guys are getting plucked from teams. And sure, there will be certain names that leave, but this core is put in place. And the cap going up, which was announced today, is only going to help Howie Roseman do his cap gymnastics and get it all figured out. I also like that they're staying internal for the offensive coordinator. I get it's not Kellen Moore, but there's at least a little continuity there, which is something I view view incredibly positively, thinking how many offensive coordinators have cycled through here. And for the Chiefs specifically, until somebody knocks them off that pedestal, I'm still going to give them the respect. And it's going to take another AFC team taking some significant steps forward, whether that is Lamar Jackson figuring out his postseason demons, whether that is the Bills adding a defense around Josh Allen. The bottom line is the team has to get better before I see them getting taken down. And until that happens, I'm buckling up for the three-peat right here. Let's get the rematch.
I ordinarily, and I think, Jerm, we ask this question year over year when football season is done, like, are we going to see either rematch or namely, are the Chiefs going to be back? And every fucking year I've said, nah, it's so hard to make, they're not going to make it back. And I've been wrong. So, yeah, I think I'm going to call this foul. Like, could they both? They could absolutely do so. But that being said, and much like Sean just mentioned, it's going to take one of those AFC teams to just step up and just fucking knock them out early enough. Like, come on. I don't know, man. Josh Allen and the Bills got to figure it out. Lamar's got to figure it out. If Pittsburgh gets Aaron Rodgers, maybe they'll step up to do it. Who knows? NFC, you're not out of this either. Detroit, get it the fuck together. Let's go. We're not rooting for you so hard to make it to the Super Bowl for you to fuck it up 3 years in a row. So figure it out. And then you can't ignore, and I mean, Eagles fans and Sean particularly, the success that Jaden Daniels had this year, being not just a conference rival, but a division rival too. That's going to be a fucking shootout all year long. You're playing, you're playing two of those games. Those points are going to matter going into the playoffs too. So with that being said, still saying foul. It could absolutely happen, but we'll see if any other team decides to step up.
And you got to look out for the Dallas Cowboys.
Sure do.
They're close.
I'm going to keep doing this every year, and I'm going to say fair, because I have to. 18 players on IR for Detroit has to matter for the Eagles. If I'm the Eagles, I'm counting my blessings. That,
I mean, shit, you can pull San Fran in that too, of having an abysmal season of injury, starting with
Robert
CMC.
Saleh's back as the defensive coordinator. We saw what happened last time he was there, and so the Eagles will have a harder time going back to me than the Chiefs will. I think the Chiefs have a psychological advantage over the whole conference that doesn't exist in the NFC. However, your team is complete, and it's not really going anywhere. What we need to see is certain things need to happen. I think obviously the most obvious one is that Detroit can't have 18 players on defense in IR. Like, that makes a difference. The offense is going to be the offense. They're going to score 50 points, and it is what it is.
No Ben Johnson, though.
So we'll find out, right? We'll find out about that. And then, there's always that team that comes out of nowhere. Like this year it was the Commanders. There's going to be an NFC team that we're not thinking about that all of a sudden is good. Is it? I don't even want to guess who that team is, but there'll be somebody. I don't know if the Packers finally be who we think they are. Is it the Buccaneers? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are they going to all of a sudden get it? They were missing Chris Godwin all year. Like that, they were red hot. One of the best teams in the NFL before he went down. And then they were kind of just treading water until the playoffs, and they still made the playoffs and everything. It is what it is. AFC, we'll see with the Bills, if they get Myles Garrett or if they get some defensive help, or we'll see what happens with them. I feel like the Bills they're right there. They're closer than any other AFC team to me. We'll see if the Texans just had a bad year or will they come back. But I will say foul. I'm always going to take the field. Like, I don't, but I do see the Eagles in the Super Bowl before. Like, I would pick the Eagles before I pick the Chiefs if we were to make a bet on the Cut app, Sean Barnard. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right.